We're going to talk right now about work-related stress, and I did do something last week concerning this, but I didn't end up uploading it simply because it ended up being too long and it didn't really get to the real core of what I was trying to get at. But I'm sure that most of you, if you are working, you've come to experience work-related stress and pressures and everything, and it really got hammered home last week when I was talking to the person who sits right next to me, who, by the way, is much more senior than I am. For one thing, he's a permanent employee, which I'm not, and he's also he's also a pretty high-ranking permanent employee. But notwithstanding the fact that he's reached kind of a senior level, he still has anxiety when he's at meetings, and he was talking about how it takes him too long to get to the point and he uses too much time and whatever. So he's confiding in me. It was pretty, I'm not sure why people confide in me when it comes to that. But the fact of the matter is that his anxiety drives him to really dwell on that aspect of his work. He has this idea that his long-winded discussions, they kind of detract from his image within the company. And that's just one example of anxiety. I myself, I have a lot of anxiety that I channel through things like this, through the sharing on the internet, all of my writings, non-work related writings, especially the stuff that I do on YouTube, soon to be SoundCloud as well. That's just a little hint to the rest of you. So, by the way, please like this if you haven't liked it already. But the fact is that he stresses about it so much that he has to vocalize it. I myself, I feel like every day I'm on pins and needles because it always feels like my last day. It has felt that way for many, many years at every job that I've had, with the exception of the military. And that's the only way I can stay motivated. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say that it's an effective way. I don't think it's a way to get ahead, but it is a way to keep yourself motivated to get the job done. It might be one of the reasons that in the future I think I might just try to establish my own business, because that way, instead of having to have that type of stress within the same company with a number of other people, so you have to manage that type of stress while having to interact with other people. It's not very easy, okay? It's not very comfortable, and that stress over time, it leads to this sense that you're rootless, there's nowhere to go, and you're basically living on the edge of your seat, and you can't make long-term plans. That's the way that my long-term that's the way my work-related stress brings to bear, or bears out. I don't know how you would phrase that. However, with him, the work-related stress relates to the way that he's perceived within the company, and this is kind of surprising. There's somebody who's, he's nearing retirement age. Let's just put it that way. He's made enough money that he doesn't necessarily have to work anymore, but it still weighs on him. And I said to him when he talked about how much that causes him stress, that it's because of his worrying and because of his anxiety that he's so effective at getting what he does done. He's a safety engineer. He's able to get a lot of things compliant in terms of testing for biocompatibility, things like that, for all the different international standards for the product that we produce at the company I work at. So it's really his ability to not only worry but to manage that stress that makes him successful at what he does. And that's what I said to him. I think I did make a point to him that he really appreciated. And I think that's the best way to manage work-related stress. Now I do think that there's ways that you can go overboard and dedicate yourself too much to the job. The person I work for, he seems to stress a lot about his projects and whatever, and it seems to be impacting his health. He's always constantly sick, constantly needs to leave, and it's just the way it is. Not the easiest person to get along with, gets into kind of arguments with people, but he gets it done. Does that impact his life at home? Does that impact his health to the negative? I would speculate that it does. Okay, and that's my speculation, but that's the way that it seems to me, because he often seems to be pretty sick. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in this country who are managing work-related stress by just becoming workaholics. So, I don't know if this would be helpful to you, the general audience. I know some of you are probably, you're self-employed, or you work, part-time or something. So the balance of the stress might be different. If you're going to school while working, of course, that's a different type of stress. There's a few people I work with that are like that, and I did for about 5 years. So this, I think, is really kind of a primer on how to manage it without really losing sight of the fact that you go to work in order to be able to pay for something, for your own basic needs. You shouldn't have to go to work and suffer the entire day. So I think that the best way to manage it is to kind of, you do the small things that help you establish, I guess, a good relationship with the people around you. What I did last year when I wanted to do that, and I don't necessarily need to be buddies with everybody, but I started buying K-cups and putting them near my desk and saying, I even put up a sign that says people can take K-cups. People really appreciate that. You'd be surprised how much people would appreciate a free cup of coffee, okay, just in the middle of the day when they'd usually be just going to the machine and getting a cup of coffee. Well, here's a free cup of coffee with a K-cup, and people really love that. So you just do the small things, just behave like you normally would, but don't try to become overly closed off. Also, don't try to be so extroverted, and don't try to draw too much attention to yourself, because if you start to behave kind of ostentatiously, people will realize that you're really acting out your stress. There's people that will basically go off on a handle at work, and that's how you get kind of these HR situations or whatever. That's something you never want to be involved in. Okay, that's the unfortunate truth of working for a large company. It might be one of the reasons a lot of people who can't handle that, they should try to become self-employed or work in an environment where they don't have to be around a lot of people. But that might be above my pay grade. So that's about it. That's a non-political, non-current events topic. Talk to you guys later. Please like, share, and subscribe, and see my other channel, Bold Like a Leopard. I'll talk to you later.